The Bears had an interesting draft. I think it's fair to say with the Bears, they did do a good job of maximizing the value of a lot of these picks, but also I guess it depends on what your goal was. If your goal was simply just to improve your secondary, which they needed to do, then you hit it out of the park. I would have had more of a plan of trying to just improve the offense and make things easier for Justin Fields, who just does not have a lot going on around him right now, and it's unfortunate. They did get some guys, so let's just go through, the pick by pick, talk about each one. First, Kyler Gordon, who I like. I think Kyler Gordon's pretty good, and drafting Washington corners in general seems to work out. So he's someone who I do think will work well, especially in this Eberflus defense, which tends to play a lot of cover two zone. And like a Jaquan Brisker, I think will be awesome in this defense. I actually really like these two selections. So that's kind of why it's, again, you can say you like the players they got and also wish they got these quality players in other positions, but it doesn't always work out that way. So like Brisker, a lot as well. He's someone who's just always in position. He's a complete safety. I think they got two really good quality players here, as Eberflus is going to want to play more of a cover two zone. These guys can help him do that. Here's where the pick gets a little bit weird. So they go wide receiver with the 71st overall pick, which was smart. Getting a wide receiver there is the correct decision. The guy they got, though, is that the right decision? I don't know. So Velus Jones out of Tennessee, where it seemed like, really what he did was like, he does not run routes. That's just not something he does. And he's already 25 years old. Basically, the Tennessee offense, when they used him, would just throw him the ball and then let him figure stuff out, which maybe that can work out. Maybe the idea is he's someone who can be great with the ball in his hands. And like, listen, just because there's a chance it doesn't work out doesn't mean it's not going to work out. He is someone who has potential to be a quality wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. There's also the potential that he's not going to be great with them. Both things are true, and that's why it's just a weird pick. And I do feel like there were some better receivers on the board. But what I always say is don't let a day two go by without drafting a receiver or a safety. They got a receiver and a safety. So that's smart. That's what you want to do. So again, yes, probably there's better names you can go out and get, but who knows? Maybe you can teach him to get some of this route running stuff done and he can be a polished player. I haven't spent a ton of time evaluating him. So maybe he's someone who I'll make a film study on post-draft and see how I like him. Their next three picks are actually three guys I really like, quite frankly. So Braxton Jones, who I talk a lot about production when it comes to defensive and offensive linemen, because that translates well to the NFL level. Jones had a lot of production as an offensive tackle. So can he be that really good offensive tackle? Sure. There's reason to believe that. So again, this is where people get a little bit, it's like, okay, listen, yes, it would have been great if the Bears went out and got some good offensive linemen in, with pick 39 to help out Fields, but you can still get some other guys. And they had a lot of picks and got some interesting players here. Dominique Robinson, a defensive lineman, this is a weird guy. So he's someone who transitioned to defensive lineman from a wide receiver, which is wild. So his production wasn't great, but there's reason to believe that he could outplay his production at the NFL level due to the fact that he's kind of still learning the position. And at pick 174, I'm fine of taking that kind of guy. And Zachary Thomas, very similar to Braxton Jones, an offensive lineman who produced in college. So getting someone who can produce, that's valuable. And these guys could at least be good depth guys, but maybe have potential for better than that. With the next pick here, you have running back Treston Ebner, who's another guy who's interesting. Seems like he's a back who can do all three phases of the game. He can receive, he can block, and he can run the football. Obviously, that's the third one. So someone who I think could be, a solid player, maybe someone who could be like a Tariq Cohen type guy, which would be unique. He's from Baylor, so we'll see how well that works out. They could use kind of a guy in that mold, I think. So I'm definitely fascinated by him as well. As for their next two picks, Doug Kramer and Jatir Carter, again, two guys who were good. They're offensive linemen who had solid production. Kramer is a center. Carter is, either going to be he played left tackle in college. Maybe he'll be tackle. Maybe he'll be a guard. Seems like they wanted to add some depth. And listen, with these four players, it seems logical to believe that some of them could at least compete for starting jobs, especially on that Bears offensive line, which is not great. So that's good value. So I know that you look at the consensus big board ranking next to each of these guys' names and say, okay, that's not great. That's a reach. That doesn't look good. But I think that there's reason to believe these guys could be better. And it feels like the Bears made a conscious effort to get guys on the offensive and defensive line who produced, and those guys all did. Elijah Hicks is he's an interesting player. I think Elijah Hicks, someone who again, I would assume as the 401st ranked prospect on the consensus big board, probably going to be more of a special teams guy. And, also with a pick one pick later, again, we're talking, within a few picks of being the last pick of the draft, they got Trenton Gill, punter. So I guess from what I've read about him, he's not like a spectacular punting prospect. But hey, if you like him as a punter, using this pick just to guarantee that because at this point, you're just picking guys to make sure that you get them and you don't have to compete with them in the undrafted free agency pool. So because of that, that's why I think it's interesting. So yeah, as a whole, that's where the Bears are at. I think I like the draft. Again, I wish they helped out Fields more. I guess my real issue is I just wish they helped out Fields more in free agency. That's kind of not really something that we've seen the Colts historically do. Matt Eberflus from that system. Maybe that's why he's kind of taking that with him, not going out and spending in free agency. But you see how, the Jets have done everything they can to help out Zach Wilson, how the Patriots are helping out Mac Jones. Certainly, the Jaguars are trying to help out Lawrence. They're stupid, but they're trying to help him out at least. It seems like it's almost a conscious effort for the Bears to build their defense first. Maybe they're just not as high on Justin Fields as other people are. I don't know, but it's just unfortunate because Fields, can be very exciting, and I wish he was getting a little bit more help to deal with. That's kind of what I think. But I did like the draft. I thought they got good talent, so that's kind of why I'm conflicted on it. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this Bears draft? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.